Hey guys, welcome back. This is going to be my final predictions heading into the elections for March 10, 2020 in the Democratic presidential primary. And things have definitely been looking better for Joe Biden given the strengths that he showed on Election Day, Super Tuesday, winning a ton of states that nobody expected him to pick up. And now it's looking like that positive momentum is carrying over into this batch of elections, which are taking place in states like Washington, North Dakota, Missouri, Mississippi, Michigan, Idaho, as well as Democrats abroad. And if Bernie Sanders was in a position of showing strength and looking like he could possibly compete for the nomination, then this would be a group of states that you would expect him to perform pretty well in outside of Mississippi. Because if we look back at the 2016 election and these states, a number of them were caucuses actually switching over to primaries this time around, but he won by 38% with Democrats abroad. He won by 57% in Idaho. It was a caucus. Now it is a primary. He won by about 1 to 2 percentage points in Michigan, but then Mississippi, he lost by 66% to Hillary Clinton, and he's continuing to show that weakness down in the Southeast again this time around in 2020. Missouri was essentially a tie between Sanders and Clinton, but in the Midwest, where you'd expect Sanders to be relatively competitive. And then North Dakota, a caucus back then, he won by 39%. It's going to be a caucus again this time around, and perhaps he's able to surprise in a caucus scenario as opposed to a primary where more people turn out. We'll see if that's going to be the case or not. And then Washington was also a caucus back in 2016. Sanders won that one by around 46 percentage points. This time, it is going to be a primary. Now, I think that Sanders is capable of winning some of these matchups, but he is a significant underdog at this point in time. He is benefited by the fact that 2 of the elections are in Midwestern states, 3 of them are out west, and these are regions of the country where Sanders should be relatively competitive, but a lot of the polling data that we saw come out today was not looking so great for Sanders, and he's definitely a significant underdog at this point in the process. So I'm just going to go through, and now I'm only going to be predicting first and second place now that it's essentially a 2-person race between Biden and Sanders. So that's going to be the change that we have here going forward as opposed to the first contest where I did first, second, and third place predictions. So starting off here with Democrats abroad, this is a coalition of voters which should be a bit more beneficial towards Sanders. Like I said, he won this particular group by 38 percentage points in 2016. And although he probably doesn't win by that kind of margin, I do think that Bernie is going to be able to pick up Democrats abroad this time around with Joe Biden getting that second place finish. Idaho, one of these western states where if Bernie Sanders isn't winning an area like this, then it means that things are starting to become a significant long shot for him to seriously contend with Joe Biden. Sanders showed his most strength out west back in 2016, and thus far in the 2020 cycle, he's actually had some of his stronger states out west, picking up areas like Colorado, Utah, as well as Nevada and California. Perhaps this is also the case in Idaho, but the argument here for Joe Biden is where Sanders did well back in 2016, picking up rural white voters and a lot of working class white voters. Joe Biden is coming into this coalition and able to bring it more to his side than what Hillary Clinton was able to do from that moderate centrist lane in 2016. So I actually do feel like Joe Biden is going to be able to pick up that first place finish in Idaho. Also, the fact that it's no longer a caucus makes things a little bit tougher for Sanders in this go-around. Now, Michigan, a make-or-break state, and the polling actually back in 2016, Sanders was down by about 20 or so percentage points, and then he actually went on to win, and the polling has not looked great from Sanders again this time around in Michigan. Maybe he's able to shock the world in 2020, but I just don't think it's going to happen because Joe Biden, he's going to continue to do well with the African-American vote in and around the Detroit area. And there's some other pockets of African-American vote around the state of Michigan that he should have success with. But also, again, these rural, white, working-class type voter areas that Sanders cleaned up against Hillary Clinton, it's not happening this time around. I think Joe Biden does better in those areas, and that makes a difference in him going on and claiming Michigan, with Bernie getting second place. Now, Mississippi, very straightforward. It's actually a question as to whether Bernie will even be able to reach the 15 percentage point threshold, given the significant beatings he's taken in these southeastern states like South Carolina as well as Alabama. That one should be pretty straightforward with Joe Biden winning it by a considerable margin. And if I have Joe Biden winning states like Michigan and Idaho, then I also feel like he should be able to pick up a state like Missouri, which was very competitive between Clinton and Sanders, but Clinton performed a little bit better in Missouri than what she did in the state of Michigan. I think Joe Biden's able to pick up a first-place finish there. Also, the polling that we've gotten thus far out of Missouri has been really positive in general for Joe Biden. Some of it's been close, but also we've seen some Missouri polls where he's been ahead by quite a considerable margin. Now, North Dakota actually could end up surprising, given the fact that it's a caucus and Joe Biden's support hasn't necessarily shown that they can do all that well in some of these caucuses, where he did not do well in the Iowa caucus and the Nevada caucuses. He did a little bit better, but there was quite a bit of a gap between himself and Bernie Sanders in that state. We'll see if he's able to come through here, but I actually do think Joe Biden also goes on and picks up North Dakota. And again, perhaps the fact that it is a caucus makes it a bit more competitive, or maybe Bernie Sanders even surprises. We'll see what happens tomorrow on Election Day. And then we have the state of Washington out west there. This is an area that Bernie Sanders absolutely 100% has to win to continue going on in this process. If he's losing a state out west like Washington, then that will be pretty much the end of the line there for Sanders. Especially, you would think that getting the endorsement of Pramila Jayapal, who's a congresswoman from Washington, should help his chances. Sanders did extremely well in the state. It was a caucus back in 2016, so that helped him. But even with switching to a primary, you'd think that Washington would be a bit more favorable towards Sanders. If Joe Biden's able to surprise everyone and pick this one up, like I said, the writing will be on the wall at that point for Bernie Sanders' chances. So you can see out of these 7 contests, I have Bernie winning 2 of them, Democrats abroad as well as Washington, with Joe Biden coming through in picking up states in key areas that Sanders was actually able to win back in 2016, areas like Idaho, North Dakota, Michigan. I have Joe Biden flipping that this time around for the centrist moderate wing of the party, where Clinton wasn't able to have as much success. And then also, of course, if you put Michigan in the Joe Biden camp, you're also going to expect Missouri to go that direction, and then Mississippi. Not much of a contest likely in that one. Not much of a conversation needs to be had. Joe Biden is going to win that one, and by considerable margin. So those are the predictions that I'm putting together here for the elections that we have on March 10, 2020. Once we get the numbers start coming back in, I'll be making some more videos going over exactly what happened. So I appreciate you guys stopping by. Consider subscribing to my YouTube channel for more election coverage, and hope to see you back here for my next video.